The road from Elderglen to Crystalhaven wound through hills where the land itself seemed to breathe. Meadows gave way to shimmering streams, and the air grew sweeter, laced with the scent of blooming jasmine and the faint chime of unseen nature, spirits drifting on the breeze. Kael walked most of the way, his pack slung over one shoulder, the short sword at his hip, a familiar weight. He had left Harlan with a promise to return soon, though both men knew the promise might stretch longer than either wished. When the capital of Sylvandar first appeared through the trees, it stole the breath from his lungs. Crystalhaven rose like a living jewel. Marble towers gleamed white under the sun, their surfaces carved with vines and leaves, so delicate they seemed to sway even without wind. Waterfalls poured from the upper terraces, cascading in silver sheets that caught the light and shattered it into rainbows. Bridges of living wood arched over rushing rivers, and everywhere the faint glow of nature, spirits flickered tiny motes of green and gold dancing in the mist. The city did not dominate the land. It grew from it, as though the forest had decided to crown itself. Guards at the outer gate recognized him at once. Word of the farmer's son who had saved the princess had traveled faster than he had. They bowed, low and genuine, and escorted him through streets lined with cheering citizens. Flowers rained from balconies. Children ran alongside, shouting his name. Kael kept his head high, but his gaze humble, discomfort tightening his shoulders. He was no hero in his own mind, only a man who had done what needed doing. The royal palace stood at the city's heart, its walls woven with ivy that bloomed even in winter. King Aaron awaited him in the grand audience hall, a vast chamber open to the sky, where sunlight poured through gaps in the canopy above. The king was a tall man, silver-haired, his face lined with wisdom and the quiet strength of someone who had ruled through peace and peril alike. Beside him stood General Varric, broad-shouldered, grizzled, one eye replaced by a polished orb of obsidian that caught the light like a dark star. Princess Lirael stood at her father's right, silver hair braided with tiny white blossoms, emerald eyes fixed on Kael. The moment he entered, her expression was composed, but her pulse betrayed her quickening at the sight of the man who had stood between her and death. Kael stopped before the dais and bowed deeply. King Aaron's voice carried the weight of authority, tempered by gratitude. Kael Oakroot, you saved my daughter's life when no one else could. Sylvandar does not forget such deeds. Kael straightened. I did only what honor demanded, Your Majesty. Varric stepped forward, studying him like a blade being weighed for balance. Words are easy. Steel is honest. Come, show us what kind of man wields that sword. A training circle had been prepared in the open courtyard beyond the hall, packed earth ringed by marble columns, sunlight slanting through leaves overhead. Varric tossed Kael a blunted longsword. No blood today, but no mercy either. The duel began without ceremony. Varric attacked with the precision of a man who had survived 100 battlefields. Kael met him blow for blow, parrying, sidestepping, countering with controlled power. The general's obsidian eye gleamed as he pressed harder, forcing Kael back step by step. Then Kael shifted, his stance widened. His strikes grew sharper, carrying an instinctive fire that made Varric's eyebrows rise. Steel rang against steel. Dust rose. Spectators, guards, courtiers, the rail watched in silence. Finally, Varric stepped back, lowering his blade. Sweat glistened on his brow. A slow grin cracked his scarred face. Boy, he said, voice rough with approval. You fight like you were born with a sword. Kael lowered his own weapon, breathing hard but steady. I fight to protect, General. Nothing more. King Aaron descended from the dais. The hall had fallen utterly quiet. You saved my daughter once, the king said. Now swear to be her eternal shield. Swear it before this court, before the spirits of Sylvandar, before the gods who watch us all. Kael looked at Lirael. Her gaze met his steady, searching, something unspoken passing between them like a current beneath still water. He sank to one knee, sword laid flat across his palms. On my life, Your Majesty, he said, voice clear and unwavering. Her safety is my honor. I will shield her with every breath I take. The hall erupted in applause. Lirael's heart beat so fiercely she pressed a hand to her chest, as though to steady it. Far across the border, in the thunderous heart of Aetherion, Stormforge brooded beneath skies that never fully cleared. Lightning flickered constantly along the crystal spires, and the forges below never slept. In a sealed chamber deep within the palace, lit only by braziers of blue-black flame, Vizier Malachar worked his craft. He was a lean man, serpentine in his movements, eyes the color of oil on water. Before him stood his nephew Draven Young, handsome in a sharp, predatory way, silver tongue already practiced at courtly lies. Malachar dipped his fingers into a vial of dark liquid that smoked on contact with air. He traced a pattern across Draven's bare back, murmuring words older than the Empire itself. The skin reddened, then settled into the perfect likeness of the golden flame rune, swirling, lifelike, glowing faintly before dimming to match the memory of the true mark. Draven flexed his shoulders, studying the reflection in a polished shield. "It feels heavy," he said quietly. Malachar's smile was thin. "It will feel like destiny soon enough." He placed a hand on Draven's shoulder, grip firm. "You will be Prince Thorn, and I will be the power behind the throne." Draven met his uncle's gaze. For a moment something flickered in his eyes. Ambition, yes, but also the faintest shadow of doubt. Then it was gone. He nodded. "Then, let us begin." Days passed in Crystalhaven. Kael took up residence in the Knight's quarters. Though he spent little time there, his duties were simple and absolute. Remain near Lirael at all times. They sparred each morning in the royal garden's terraces of white stone, where waterfalls sang softly and vines heavy, with blossoms draped every arch. The air smelled of rain and roses. Lirael was no delicate flower. She fought with a short blade and a dagger, movements quick and intelligent, reading her opponent's intent before the strike landed. Kael matched her pace, never overpowering, always teaching even as he defended. After one particularly fierce exchange, she stepped back, breathing hard, cheeks flushed. "You're more than muscle and steel, Kael," she said, sheathing her blade. "There's fire in your soul." He wiped sweat from his brow, meeting her gaze. The words came quietly, almost reluctantly. "And yours lights the darkest paths, Princess." For a heartbeat neither moved. The space between them felt charged, fragile, forbidden. Then Lirael looked away, tucking a loose strand of silver hair behind her ear. "We should not speak like that," she murmured. "I know," he answered, yet neither walked away immediately. That night, in the small house on the edge of Elderglen, Harlan prepared for bed. Kael had sent word he would stay longer in Crystalhaven. Harlan understood. Still, the silence of the farmhouse pressed against him. He filled the copper tub with hot water, steam rising in lazy curls. When Kael had bathed here last, before leaving, Harlan had glimpsed the rune again. Golden flames. Unmistakable. Eternal. Now, alone, Harlan sat on the edge of the tub and stared into the water. Memories rose unbidden. The crying infant in the wilds, the weight of a secret carried 20 years, the fear that one day the truth would burn everything he had built. He whispered to the empty room, voice cracking. "Some truths are too heavy to carry." In Crystalhaven, Lirael stood alone on her balcony, overlooking the city. Torches flickered below, nature spirits drifting like fireflies. She pressed her palms to the cool marble railing. In a palace of masks, he's the only real thing I've ever met. The thought came unbidden, sharp, and dangerous. She closed her eyes against it, but it did not leave.